On Through the Night is the debut album by English rock band Def Leppard, released in 1980. The album was produced by Tom Allom. It charted at number 15 on the UK Albums Chart and number 51 on the Billboard 200. The album features re-recorded versions of Rocks Off and Overture, tracks from the band's original independently released EP, the Def Leppard E.P. Other tracks are re-recorded versions of early demos, some of which appeared on the First Strike and Warchild bootlegs. The album was certified platinum by the RIAA on May 9, 1989. Rocks Off, Wasted, Hello America, and Rock Brigade were released as singles. However, the versions of Rocks Off and Wasted that appears on the singles is a different recording from that of the LP, as is its B-side, Hello America. The single Getcha Rocks Off included the songs Ride Into the Sun and Overture. Reception: the album received mostly positive reviews. AllMusic's Steve Huey noted that On Through the Night established the band as one of the leading lights of the new wave of British heavy metal. Being a collection of working-class hard rock anthems informed by the big, glittering hooks of glam rock. Although he stated that it may lack the detailed production and more pop-oriented songwriting of later efforts, some Leppard fans prefer this sound. Canadian journalist Martin Popoff praised the album for being one of the most polished and savvy of the NWOBHM, evoking the sound of acts like Thin Lizzy, UFO, even Queen and Mott the Hoople. For him, On Through the Night was a welcome breath of fresh air among the dark, thrashy, and punky music coming from the UK at the time. Rolling Stone's David Fricke reviewed the album favourably on the same wavelength, explaining that it shows they not only respect their elders, they've taken cues from their new wave peers too. He also stated that guitarists Pete Willis and Steve Clark shoot from the hip, packing their licks into tight, 3-minute pop arrangements, and that lead singer Joe Elliott wails wonderfully in a resonating tenor, fortified by backup harmonies and Tom Allom's battering ram production. He concluded that the band displays a wisdom beyond their years in mixing melody and heaviness, coming up with an album that is awfully impressive for a band making its vinyl debut. Sputnik Music staff review noted that the middle-class common man image of the new wave of British heavy metal movement partially played a part in making Def Leppard one of its leaders. He also stated that the band's ambition would never allow them to be tunnel-visioned, but he concluded that On Through the Night can be categorized as a grower of an album since the more superficial elements that would appeal to the mainstream will initially distract some listeners from what is actually an incredibly tight musical and vocal performance. Track listing. Personnel. Def Leppard Joe Elliott lead vocals, Steve Clark guitar, Pete Willis guitar, Rick Savage bass guitar, Rick Allen drums. Additional musicians Chris M. Hughes synthesizer on Hello America, Dave Cousins voice on When the Walls Came Tumbling Down. Production Colonel, Tom Allom producer, Louis Snook Austin engineer, Dick Plant engineer, Alan Schmidt artwork. Charts. Certifications. References.